So what are the unifying themes in biochem? So the first unifying theme I'd like to talk about is the hierarchical organization of biology and biochem. So here I'll start with ecosystems, and then organisms, and then cells, and then metabolism, and then macromolecules, biomolecules, and lastly, elements and functional groups. So here is basically the hierarchical organization of biology and biochem. So first, I'll start out by highlighting the triangle with increased complexity as you go up the triangle. And I'd like to highlight first that the ecosystems, organisms, and cells are primarily found by studying biology. And metabolism, macromolecules, and biomolecules, and including maybe cells, is also biochem related. And lastly, elements and functional groups, you find that mostly in general chemistry. They're overall interconnected, but this is where you would study these with the increased complexity going up. So it's important to know that there is, in biomolecules, you study amino acids, fatty acids, etc. And then in macromolecules, you study proteins, carbohydrates, DNA. And in metabolism, you learn glycolysis and good old Krebs cycle as well. And in cells, you mainly learn about the cell wall, organelles, etc. And for organisms, for example, trees and ecosystem, a good example would be rivers. So here are just examples of each concept in each topic. So here's the hierarchical organization in biology and biochem. So there are 5 unifying themes in biochem, and this is the first one we just discussed. So the second important theme in biochem is that organisms and cells in biochemistry are in a dynamic, steady state. So what is a dynamic, steady state? We usually talked about this in the other YouTube videos, but here I'd like to emphasize that a dynamic, steady state does not equal equilibrium. They're not the same thing. Basically, what dynamic, steady state is that there is no such thing as the rates of the change of the forward and the reverse reaction are the same. That is what equilibrium is. Equilibrium is where the rates of the forward and the reverse reactions are equal. Living organisms in biochemistry are in a dynamic, steady state, non-equilibrium. Be sure to remember that so you can fully understand what biochemistry is and what you're studying in biochemistry. So what does dynamic steady state mean? It's basically maintained by homeostasis, which is the regulation of the stability and constancy needed to function properly. And then dynamic steady state would mean that it is the constant and balanced internal environment. That is what a dynamic steady state is. It's the constant and balanced internal environment. Okay, so the next unifying theme in biochemistry is that biochem occurs via linked, coupled reactions. What is that basically? Basically, it's like the reactions where you use free energy calculations, where you do pathways. They're all interrelated, interconnected somehow through coupled reactions. And we will do some reactions throughout these series. And what is the fourth unifying theme in biochem? So the fourth one is that biochemical reactions are catalyzed. So what does that mean? Well, to catalyze a reaction, you need an enzyme in biochemistry. And without enzymes, we would expect to see reactions would take a very long time for the reaction to progress. So here, if I were to draw the graph with energy and the reaction progress for a particular reaction, let's say you need this much energy for the reaction to occur, And if we have enzymes that reduce the transition state, that's how the reaction would basically be sped up by reducing the energy it needs to for the transition state to occur. So instead of this high transition state and active energy needed, it would be reduced to, let's say, this much. So this is how biochemical reactions would be catalyzed using enzymes. And the fifth unifying theme in biochem is that life and biochemistry depend on the properties of water. And this is important to know because properties of water, and this is important because you see water used in the electron transport chain and through other processes where you see water is involved for the reaction or metabolism to occur. And this is where I will end off the video.